Hey everyone, welcome to the fifth round of the Open of Sevilla. As you can see, immediately I lost today. It's kind of annoying that Lee Chess now does this. Like, it shows the results immediately. Like, it didn't used to be like this. But okay, let's go through the game. The game wasn't so bad in general. It will come down to like one moment, basically. Okay, so I decided to go for the Spanish again. He plays all kinds of stuff like Sicilians and freaking Caracans and whatnot. Um, I just went for my e4. Okay, and the other day I played 5d3. I considered doing that as well, but I decided to go for short castles. And he only had games. Okay, he had a lot of side lines as well, like okay, the Archangel with like b5, bishop c5. Also, this line, the Steinitz with d6. But I saw that in this main line, he only had games with d6, which, if you don't know, this is like the old main line. So everyone used to play this in the 20th century. And it goes like this, h3, and now black has a lot of choices. But the three main moves, as far as I know, are knight a5, which is the even older main line. And then, well, black is just trying to get the knight out of the way and playing c5. This is the whole spirit of the Rue Lopez, or the Spanish opening, which is the same thing. Um, yeah, so knight a5 is one move, knight b8 is another way to do it, and then putting the knight on d7. Black can afford this since the position is like kind of, it's very closed. And also bishop b7, which is the Zaitsev variation. So he only had games with like this old line. Well, I say old, but it's still played, but it's just not as popular nowadays. But he went for short castles, which is like nowadays the main continuation. And it's the main continuation because basically people found out that the Marshall Gambit is just too good. So no one even basically goes into this anymore. At least not on a regular basis. This is like one of the openings that I literally never ever wanted to study. Like I never, um, at least from the white side, like I never looked at this even one bit. It's just there's too much theory, and black just gets so much compensation. It's not really worth it. So I went for a4, bishop b7, and here I started to think for a little bit because I wanted to not go into this line with c3 and knight d7, knight bd2, knight c5. This line exists and it is quite theoretical, and I didn't want to go into it because I don't know. I thought it was my opponent's intention, which he told me after the game that it wasn't. But you don't know that during the game. So I was choosing between knight c3, knight d2. Okay, I ended up going for knight d2. He went for another plan anyways, knight a5 and c5. And here, something interesting happened. So, um, I basically wanted to play knight f1 and probably, well, depending on what he does, but probably go bishop g5, take this bishop. So this is, let me just show you. This is like a possible in some cases, like giving up this bishop and then fighting for the light squares like this, probably trading off this bishop as well, or just putting the knight there, and giving up the dark square bishop but playing on the light squares. But I went for c3, which I came to know after the game that is really never played, and it just goes to show that I should studying my openings more deeply. I mean, at any rate, I'm not a player that cares too much for the openings in general. Um, I'm more of a player that just wants to get a game usually, rather than trying to get, you know, studying a lot to get an advantage with white and equalizing with black. Um, so okay, this wasn't what defined the game anyways. so it's not that important. But for your knowledge and from my knowledge as well, people don't really play c3 here. They play knight f1, and yeah, I mean c3 d4 is always an idea, but people go knight f1 first. One of the reasons could be what happened in the game. So he played c4, which I really did not expect, but it was one of the computer's top choices. And this, yeah, this took me by surprise quite a lot. And I spent a lot of time here, like debating what I should play. Also because I have a lot of choice. So one thing is well, the main point is that if I take, he wants to get this structure. Um, he can take with the bishop or with the knight, but I mainly considered him taking with the knight. And now I probably want to trade off these bishops, and we get to this scenario where I put the queen somewhere. And okay, I was considering this position for a little bit. The thing is that I don't really know how I'm going to get my pawns rolling, because once I push b4, like c3 is going to be a weakness. The only, basically the only good thing, I mean, my pieces don't really have active squares, but the good thing about this position is that it's very hard for him to move his pawns. E4 is never really an option because it gives me this square on d4, and d5 just hangs this pawn. But I thought that black was more than okay here with some move like rook b8, maybe preventing some bishop g5. So this was one option. Then another thing is I can just go knight f1, just let this be, right? And if he takes, I just take back and then go knight g3. And I can also play this structure, but eventually I should start worrying about him taking on a4, right? And just holding on to the pawn with bishop c6. Like, that's always in the back of my mind. So then I noticed this idea to go for b4. I was kind of happy to know that this already occurred in the game Svidler Tomaszewski, 2014. Svidler with the white pieces, which means that it's not such a bad move, right? I mean, probably. And yeah, it was also one of the computer's top choices. So he has to take en passant because he cannot move the knight away because this pawn just falls. So he has to take, I take back. And the point is that I'm probably foregoing playing on the king side, and instead I'm focusing on the queen side. So I'm probably trying to fix a weakness on b5 or something like this, and playing on this side of the board. For example, that game, Svila Tomaszewski went ba4, knight bd2. In the game, I was only thinking about taking on a5. This is what I was going to do, and then bishop d2. And yeah, I will probably come around to take this pawn. I believe I was thinking about like queen c7, bishop b1, and bishop c2. And basically just to get my point across, like in a position as such, white is for choice, and we're just playing against this weak pawn, so it's a slight advantage. But he played knight c6, which I thought was a bit weird. I mean, he was just retreating. It's not such a bad move or anything, but that I just thought that I was getting something here, some pull. And I thought for a long time again, and I didn't really like my move. So I went for d4, which is principled, but it allows d5. And I saw this, and it makes sense for black. But I don't know. I just thought that I would be able to get something. I just thought that I would figure it out later, even though I spent a lot of time on this move already. So I should have, in hindsight, tried to play it slower, prevent this idea. Maybe bishop a3 or bishop b2 or bishop d2, some move like this. I mean, these squares are kind of passive for the bishop, so maybe this bishop a3 is interesting. And probably against d5, probably I go for some knight c5. Yeah. most likely. And yeah, just try to play a bit prophylactically and not let him push d5. So he goes d5, and surprise, surprise, it's good for him. So I was considering all kinds of stuff like, these. Once this scenario happens in the Rui Lopez and the Italians, you just have to calculate so much. For a long time, I was also just considering this, something like Queen d3 or something, and then Knight d4. And I'm not sure like whose pawns are weaker. Like he's got the d5 pawn in b5, but once I move my knight, he's got knight c5. So I don't really know. I didn't like that, so I ended up just taking and going for this sort of safe option with bishop d2. So he's got to take, I take back. We trade the knights here. And I thought you know, um, at first I thought I had some pressure here. Again, he never really wants to take because now, well, I have more activity and this pawn can be weak in the long run. Also, like I have this file to hit the bishop. It's also probably nothing that special. But he doesn't want to do that in general. Now, what I heavily um, underestimated is stuff related to this diagonal on f6, right? So one thing that I was quite worried about was this move b4 takes bishop f6. Now, the problem is it's not so easy to defend the knight. Like the bishop doesn't have good squares. It's always getting, like if I move the bishop, there's always some knight c3 stuff, and the bishop doesn't even have a square right now. Eventually, I was while he was thinking, I was contemplating this idea. Knight f5. He takes. I also have to watch out for some intermediate moves, but I don't think there are any useful ones. So this position, and now this got quite interesting actually. Like I'm sure the lines that I calculated are not forced, but just to show one thing that I saw. Queen f6. Now there's this forcing line, bishop d5. He takes on a1. It seems like I'm gonna win material right away, but he's got rook d8 in the end. It has to be this rook so that this one, because if he plays the f rook, this one gets hit with a tempo here in the end. So he's got to move this one. But even so, we get to this end game, which okay, this should be great for white. I'm not sure if it's winning. I mean, I assume that this is good for white. I mean, black can trade a pair of rooks, but still, white cannot be in any danger here, I don't think. Um, this was just like a sample line, but the main test, I guess, is like f6, and I don't think I have anything useful to do in the diagonal, so uh, I will just have to play for the compensation, and yeah, I'll probably find some. Um, but I wasn't sure during the game about this. I should have, yeah, realized that this diagonal was more dangerous than it seemed. He played bishop f6. Also, I should mention that eventually I saw this bailout option to go knight e2 here, which is a very like passive move, but it just rids me of all my troubles because next I'm playing rook b1 or rook c1, and I should be fine. So he plays bishop f6, and I should have played one of those moves. Yeah, rook b1, or yeah, probably rook b1. Yeah, what I missed, unfortunately, is that after takes, 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 I thought we were just, I thought he was just gonna play for compensation, some queen b6 or something. And this pawn is not impressive, but you know, if anyone has something, it's white. But unfortunately, I missed this tactic, which is kind of nice, which is this knight b4. Um, yeah, uh, very unfortunate. And to my surprise, the game isn't over because I found this bishop takes f7 resource. By the way, I should just mention. So the point is that, okay, one, I cannot move the bishop because he trades the rooks and this bishop falls in the end. And yeah, and this is also pinned. That's the first thing. I cannot take the knight because he takes the rook again, and then the bishop falls, and this one is falling as well. Everything is dropping. I was thinking about some intermediate moves, but nothing really works. Eventually, I came up with this bishop f7 thing, and he has to take with the king, which he did instantly, um, to my demise, because, yeah, I thought that he wouldn't have seen it, but apparently he had. Um, because if rook f7, I'm completely fine because I managed to trade the rooks first, right? And only then do I take on b4, and it's also important that in the end here after queen d5 I have this queen f3, which is maybe a normally move. I mean, maybe not. Maybe I have some other way around this, but queen f3 is what I saw, and I sort of pin him to the bishop, and I'm fine here. But it takes with the king. So now I can't do the same thing. Yeah, I can't do the same thing because now there's no more, like queen f3 now does not pin his queen because the bishop is protected. So that's the difference. And if I go for some queen h5 intermediate move, it doesn't work because now the bishop is hanging. So what I have to do is what I did, queen b3, and I really thought I was getting some chances here. So if he goes queen d5, I have this nice little move, knight d6, and then I take his queen. And now one of these pieces is going to fall. I trade the rooks first, so let's say like, okay, if knight takes d5, I take the bishop. If he takes here, I need to trade the rooks first, and then I take here. I'm 2 pawns up. Um, so he cannot block with the queen. He cannot block with the bishop because I simply take the knight. So he needs to go knight b5. Now, at first, from afar, I thought that this would save the day because I thought I was getting this and the rook. But then I saw knight c7, which was kind of a cold shower, and I don't have this queen b3, which could be an idea because if king g6, I at least have a draw with queen c2. But he's got queen d5, and that's all she wrote. But then I found this idea rook d1. Like, okay, I was getting very lucky to even be able to keep playing moves. To be honest. But yeah, his king is here, and there's two pins going on, so it just so happens that the position is a little bit or a lot complicated. So king g8, c4, and now he came up with this move bishop h4, and he was also playing very fast, which wasn't even giving me time to breathe. And now is the final mistake. I mean, the position is very, very hard to hold, and we were discussing this a little bit after the game, but I was really surprised to learn that I'm not completely lost. I mean, I think the computer was giving like -1 or something, whatever that means. Um, so like he's giving me back the piece because he takes on f2, takes the exchange, and well, that's good enough. And the second thing is that if bishop e3, which is in general like an idea to sort of defend the pawn and pin this knight. Here he was planning to take, and this would have been a nice way to finish the game. Maybe I should have let him do this. Um, so instead I went g3. Okay, I briefly considered other moves, which were rook e2, but like, it's already sort of a miracle that I haven't lost like all my pieces yet. So to play a move like rook e2, which is just sort of you know, passive, just reacting to his threat instead of creating a threat myself. It's just very hard to do this and usually terrible. Usually you should, counter, especially in these dynamic positions, you should counter his threats with threats of your own. But the computer's move was even worse than rook e2. It's rook f1, which is even more passive. Whatever, I played g3. I was pretty sure that I was going to lose, but I really couldn't find any other way. So he ignores the threat. He goes queen f6, which which is nice. Okay, I took the knight. What else? He takes on f2, and now he finished also nicely. Bishop g3. I'm sure there's many ways to win, but he was quite incisive. Takes, and rook f5, and this is just mate, or the queen is falling. Probably there's even no way to just stop the mate threat. Okay, so it was a decent game for the majority of it. This idea with b4 was kind of nice, and I might have had a little bit of something here had I been more cautious. Um, yeah, I guess I should have just um, believed in my calculations, because I spent a lot of time, trying to find a response to d5. I couldn't, and I just played it and assumed it was going to work out. And it's not bad or anything, but it just doesn't lead anywhere. And here, okay, in terms of missing tactics and calculation, that's just something that you keep on working at. Sometimes your opponent will miss it, sometimes you'll miss it. That's just part of the game. And this knight b4, anyways, isn't such an elementary tactic. It's not that easy, from afar at least. So yeah, that was it for today. And tomorrow I'll get an opponent that's rated 2250, I believe. And I'll see you guys tomorrow with the recap.